That's
They ought to be outlawed, man.
all right. So let's
the muscle car
on
guy.
the topic of things that went well in the 90s, or things that were tried in the 90s, and in this case, to some extent, the 80s. Apple, who we're going to talk about a little bit more in a few minutes, announced a few weeks back, I think it was, a 24-hour music stream with music videos and music content.
I want my.
So it's basically an MTV.
Cue Sting.
Yeah, right. It's an MTV type program, and when I say that, I mean what MTV was in the late 80s, early 90s. So
Right.
So this is interesting. We'll see if it works. I think Apple is kind of out of ideas for innovation, but this isn't bad. If it were, if I had Apple TV, I'd maybe turn it on.
Yeah, I have Apple TV. I'm going to check it out. I haven't checked it out yet. My wife gets on me. She says I have way too many streaming services as it is, but can you ever have too many?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just like
anymore.
I like good quality content, and I'll go wherever that takes me. I was watching the Sammy Hagar's Rock and Roll Road Trip finale. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't watched the finale,
It's
but
pretty
yes,
good.
I'm sure it is, man. I'm happy for Sam. He's done really well with that. It's been fun to watch him. He interviews a really broad range of artists too,
cool.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. And Brian Johnson from AC/DC had his own little version of that as well. He did while he was on hiatus from AC/DC, which, by the way, AC/DC just released their new album, a new single, and gosh, it sounds so much like AC/DC. It's really good, though. I mean, that's what you expect from AC/DC.
I will. I'll check it out. I've got Apple Music, so I'll go add it to my
It's
library.
really good, man. I love it. They got a neat little box set coming out and all that kind of stuff. So, but anything to, they're probably one of the most marketable bands out there, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, you can thank Iron Man for the resurgence for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I never lost contact with them. I mean, they're on my playlist all the time. I love them, and I like old AC/DC and new AC/DC. It broke my heart for Bon Scott. I was a huge fan of the Dirty Deeds and all that stuff, and I thought Highway to Hell was just one of the most fantastic. It was a masterpiece by Mutt Lange, I thought. It really was. It put AC/DC was already on the map, but that album was incredible. And then when he passed away, and they get this new lead singer, and you're thinking, how can they top that? And then it's Back in Black. It's like, oh my God, man.
Yeah.
How in the world can you top that? And then they just, some of the albums down the road were not nearly as good, but, again, you turn on the radio and you hear an AC/DC song, there is no mistaking who that is, man. So there you go. All right, so what do you think about that? Are you happy to have more MTV style stuff going around? Or?
If I had Apple TV, it would be on. Mm-hmm. It is probably not enough of a tipping point for me to go get Apple TV.
Yeah.
And part of that boils down to what your wife said. We have a limited amount of time that we can watch, videos. We're just busy, right? The family's busy, and the family queue is full right now. We all have stuff we're into that we're watching. Some stuff I'm watching with my wife. Some stuff we're watching as a family. And, it's got to take the place of something else, and right now there isn't anything on the Apple platform that has, right? That's
right. Not
to say it's bad. It's just not our cup of tea.
Yeah, I got you. I understand completely. So, all right, so let's move on to the next one.
Well, while we're on the topic of Apple.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
A few minutes ago, and by the time you see this, it'll probably be last week, but Apple did their One More Thing event, okay? And this kind of ties into what we're going to talk about a little bit in more detail here coming up. But, basically it was just telling people the same thing in a different way. And that's my opinion, but that's my takeaway from the One More Thing event. And Apple announced with a lot of hoopla and fanfare that, hey, we're making our own computer processor chips now, and we just wanted everybody to know that, and we're a big deal, and it's going to be very, very fast, and we wanted everybody to know that. And it's like, well, Jay, you and I were talking about this 6 months ago. I mean, duh,
Right.
So they're going to have to convince people that the speed is not going to suffer. They brought the PC guy back, John Hodgman, that did the commercials, Mac and PC, and he reprised his role. But honestly, I was a little underwhelmed at what they showed us, because it's all just a 1 hour commercial on how great the battery life of these things are and how fast they are. Well, if you remember back before they did the Intel the chipsets, right, before they switched to Intel processors, Apple was skewing their data on the PowerPC platform. They were showing people that we are every bit as fast as a PC, when in fact they really weren't. But they cherry-picked the data that they wanted to show you. They showed you, hey, we're really fast at this one thing over here that nobody really cares about, but we're really fast at that. And I think here's what it's going to boil down to, and then I'll shut up and let you, take it from here. But we live in an era of streaming media, okay? Most of the professional use of these pieces of equipment are going to be content creators, right? Whether it's for YouTube or podcast creators or whatever. I don't care about, so if you're buying a MacBook Pro to go Zoom meetings and do your spreadsheets while you're riding your 4-cylinder Mustang or whatever, that's fine. But that ain't that's a light version of a product that's not, that's not the V8, okay? What the content creators are going to care about is how fast can this thing render video, okay? And that also, Jay, I should point out that the 3 computers that they are starting with on the chips are the lightest. They're the lightweights. The MacBook Air, the Mac Mini, and then a 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is a MacBook Pro, but it's the smallest MacBook Pro with the least amount of power.
Right.
So,
which I will not be purchasing. And I swear I keep hanging on for hope that they're going to release something that's going to make me want to run out and buy something. But I've been, in the market for a new MacBook Pro, and I keep hanging on, waiting, hoping that there's, one of these events that they hold and these announcements that they make is going to affect what my purchase is going to be. But so far, I haven't had anything. They keep touting these iPhone 12s and all this sort of stuff. And I mean, all I get's better camera, this and, that. And you can, by the way, you can buy a mini version of it if you want to get a smaller phone. And it's like, come on, man. I mean, I don't know. I will say this.
I agree.
I am extremely pissed right now for a couple of reasons. And I had this conversation with you the other day. Apple, would you please stop telling your app creators to just basically stop supporting my devices? I now have 2 iPads and an iMac that I can't use anymore.
They all do that. I mean, my wife's on a first-gen Google Pixel, and they don't push updates to that anymore.
But man, I mean, you should
planned obsolescence, buddy. I mean,
there should still be another option out there for me. But now here I am, forced with the fact that I've got to go out and buy all this new equipment if I want to stream stuff. We are in the world of streaming, guys, and that's how it works. And you're right. I've had this stuff for a long time, so now I'm in that next generation.
It's not cool, and it does, and I'm affected by it too. And it's to some extent, it's the application developers don't have a choice if they want to, there's certain features that they're able to add, and to get those features to work right, they can only work on platforms with a certain processor, right? And look, this Apple going down this path, it may work out really well for them. I hope it does. I hope it's a champ and it pushes the envelope, because that's what we're all about here on this program, is innovation and making things better for everybody. But go back and listen to our podcast from earlier in the year where we talked about this in depth, and we talked about the pitfalls and the fact that Apple's got a lot of eggs in a lot of different baskets here, and building processors for computers is a full-time job in and of itself. So we'll see. Okay, I hope this works out great for everybody.
Absolutely, man. I hope so.
Not sure though.
No.
Wouldn't take those Vegas odds. Just leave it at that.